let's meet some of the people involved in the making of Scandal. At Cannes this year, David talked to the film's director, Michael Caton-Jones, and actor John Hurt. And here in Australia, we talked to writer Michael Thomas and the woman who inspired the story, Christine Keeler herself. One of the main topics of conversation was the character of Stephen Ward.
I never played a part that's so difficult to start. It was very difficult to know where to go, because, I mean, it seemed to be so sleazy on the one hand. And his unfortunate characteristics seem to outweigh the nice ones, the good ones, by far.
To understand Stephen Ward, you have to understand somebody who was intrigued with intrigue, you know, who just loved it for its own sake. And that went from gossip right up to, you know, the Cuban Missile Crisis. You know, it was all part of a great game for him. He was a great game player, he was a bridge player. And I think, you know, Stephen's game was to be where everybody was that night, you know. Now, you do know people like that. That's not so unusual, you know. But to have this peculiar mastery over women that he certainly had, and to see it as his sort of strength to reinvent women and then launch them like great gilded ships, which is also what he used to do. Christine was only the most recent and the one that got out of control. So he's an extremely contradictory figure.
He had everything going. I mean, he was awful on the one hand. He was name dropper, he was social climber, he loved the low life. At the same time, he adored the high life, tried to pit bohemianism against, or at the same time as living with the establishment. Just an extraordinary, complex character to play, actually. Very much in a minor key, but nevertheless complex and interesting.
I could do wonders with you, little baby. Could shock the world.
He brings himself to a film. He invests himself in the character. The definition between John Hurt the person and John Hurt the character tends to get blurred because he invests so much of himself.
I wasn't happy with John Hurt at all. I thought everybody else was so well cast. John Hurt just wasn't as what's the word? Refined. Wasn't as pompous, as distinguished as what Stephen was. And also, he was too good looking.
Stephen, I'm 18. I want to go out dancing. I don't want to be... I feel like... I want to have some fun for a change.
It's no coincidence that the day Christine went to jail, the Beatles had their first #1 record, and Mary Quant came out in miniskirts. And what followed is history. And I think there's a case for saying that the example Christine and Mandy set, which was the example of young girls who did what they liked and broke rules without thinking and went where they wanted and basically rooted who they wanted, set a very subversive example. And girls all over England couldn't wait to rush to London and follow in their footsteps.
I don't know how you did.
You make me happy, Jack.
I must dash.
You're always in such a rush.
I have an army to run.
Was Profumo in real life really as boring as he's presented in the film? Because he's presented as a rather boring character.
Yes, I know. That did really embarrass me, you know, that thing about, you know, him making love to me yawning, but it was like that, yes. I mean, I didn't fancy Profumo. He was an old man, you know. It's just that I didn't like to say, when the War Minister phoned up, and what was Stephen pushing as well, I didn't like to say no, because he was the War Minister.
As far as Christine and Mandy were concerned, life was just about hemlines and high heels and falling in love with the next guy to walk in the room.
Hopefully, it illuminated something about the nature of sexual power and greed, lust, and politics, you know.
Young, uneducated, I don't know, what can I say? I would just enjoyed my life, really. Just wanted to enjoy life, and I never saw bad or... I mean, even today, if someone tells me something, I believe it, you know. I'm a very gullible person.
It clearly was a love affair of a sort, and a dependence from both sides, and a need from both sides. But obviously, from everything that we understand, it did not revolve around a sexual one. But then there are many ways to be in love, aren't there?
Christine Keeler thinks John Hurt's too handsome. I don't suppose anybody since his mother's thought that about him.